All right, so it's Monday and we couldn't think of what we were going to do for dinner. So I decided let's do breakfast for dinner. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to start out with our homemade biscuits and maybe even throw in some honey butter. How you doing? First things first, you are going to need some gold medal all-purpose flour. That's what I swear by. That's what I use. But if you like Pillsbury, hey, by all means, do that. But we're going to use about a cup and a half of gold medal all-purpose flour. Yeah, buddy. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of baking soda. Let's drop that in there. Yeah, that's a teaspoon. Don't ask me how I know. I just know. Next, we're going to do a teaspoon of Morton salt. Now we're going to pull out the old school, old-fashioned country crock. Let's throw in a couple big fat tablespoons of that country crock, roughly about a half cup. That's what it's going to be. How do you know? Don't worry about it. I just know. You're watching, right? Okay. Now we're going to add roughly about a quarter cup of ice cold milk or ice cold water, one or the other, but it does definitely have to be ice cold. Let's add that in there. The ice cold liquid mixed with that wonderful butter that you have in there or country crock. When you combine that with that and the flour, you make something magical happen. That's how you begin to form your dough. Making dough is relatively easy. It doesn't take much. It's not a lot. It just takes a lot of patience, and sometimes you have to add a little more or use a little less of something to formulate the right consistency of your dough. Some may like a looser dough. I don't care for that. That's probably best for like a pie, but when it comes to a biscuit, I prefer a more dense dough. But to each its own. As I always like to say, make it on your own. And because my dough is not the consistency that I want it to be, I'm going to have to add a little bit of milk. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, make it work for you. Dough is very malleable, so just take your time, work with it until it does what you want it to do. Now let's speed up the process a little bit. You're going to keep kneading your dough until it starts to formulate as it should. Now you will go ahead and add some honey. Add a little bit of honey to it. It works very good. Trust me, it's delicious. Add about a tablespoon of that. Then add a little bit of flour because the honey will make your dough consistency rather loose, and that's not what we're going for. So it's all about compensation. If you add a little more liquid, add a little more flour. That is the process. Trust the process when making your dough. And as you can see, your dough has formed perfectly. This is what you want it to look like. Now let's get a little baking pan or a baking sheet and begin to roll out our biscuits. Let's do that. You're going to take about a half a teaspoon of this country crock. You're going to rub it throughout the interior of your baking pan or on your baking sheet, as you do not want your biscuits to stick. That calls for a very ugly and torn up biscuit, and we don't want a broken up biscuit now, do we? And now we can start rolling out our biscuits. You can make them as large or as small as you want. What I like to do is smack the biscuit on both sides because that helps to knock the extra air pockets out of the dough. This is what I like to do. My grandma always did it, so that's what I do. But you know what? Put it up there however you want and see what you come up with. But this is the way I like to do it. This particular recipe can yield about 5 to 6 normal sized biscuits. Now, if you want mammoth biscuits, you know, the really big ones, they probably yield about 3, maybe 4. So you know what to do. Let's speed the process up a little bit so we can go ahead and start baking these babies because I'm actually kind of hungry. But I do want to let you know how to make homemade biscuits. I believe that a homemade biscuit belongs in everyone's kitchen at one point or another. All right, so now that you're finished lining up your biscuits, let's go ahead and throw them inside the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on the heat index of your oven. If your oven cooks fast, then you might want to cut that time in half. Browned, not burnt. Browned and not burnt. That's hot. Browned and not burnt. Let's make us some honey butter. Yeah. Honey butter. Yes, Lord. Mm-hmm. When you look at that, swish it around. But wait, there's more. Oh no, he's not done. There's more. Stay right there. Just sped up the process a little bit. Y'all know how to scramble eggs and stuff. Y'all know how to do that, right? I believe so. And so we're going to do this until they're nice, light, and fluffy. Keep your eye on a medium heat because eggs cook rather quickly, as you can see. And so we're going to go ahead and get this done so we can plate up our food. And I'll show you what we have for breakfast on today because I felt downright country. And I figured, let me show you what we're going to do for breakfast tonight, which is a quick and easy meal and something that you and your family would love on any Monday night. Sit tight. All right, didn't I tell you there was more? Will you look at that? Will you look at this? Lord have mercy. You got your scrambled eggs, light and fluffy. You got your homemade biscuit with honey butter. You got your bacon that's been baked. And a side of grits. Breakfast for dinner works every time. How you doing?